All right, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the weekly Tradergy session. In this week, we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Like that plan that we had for Bitcoin in the last 2 weeks just came perfectly into fruition. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about possible next moves. We're going to look at Ethereum. We're going to look at a very popular coin right now, Litecoin. It is going absolutely insane. And we're going to come up with a plan for Litecoin in case you are already in Litecoin or if you want to get into Litecoin. We're going to take a look at a couple of the coins that were suggested to me by you guys on Twitter. So every week before I film these types of market update videos, I will ask you guys on Twitter what coin you would like to see. And if you want a chance for your favorite coin to be featured on next week's video, then just follow me on Twitter at _theartofcrypto. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So what exactly is the plan for Bitcoin that I was talking about? Well, basically 2 weeks ago, I said in the immediate short term, this would be the perfect buying opportunity. And just to prove it, this post was made by me in the private Discord group around the time that I posted the video from 2 weeks ago. Check it out. Immediate short term retracement into 29,600 would be ideal for a buy. Short term still targeting liquidity at 32k to 36k. Check it out. We came right back to where? 29,600. So chances are you're probably going to get a retracement back down to 29,600 either today or tomorrow, before the market continues higher. Well, guys, that is the benefit of following along this channel. And of course, you can do this by yourself as well. Once you understand the concepts, the markets just seem to keep repeating certain patterns. And this is one of them. This was a daily fair value gap over here. And the start of the fair value gap was the perfect entry. And I don't know if you guys can recall, but last week, what ended up happening, the SEC basically came up with sort of, I don't want to say false allegations, but they were pretty much that. Just some news to cause some panic in the markets, which led to this 1 hourly candle here, which went from like 31,000 straight to 29,600. So if you didn't have a limit order set here, you would have missed it. Thankfully though, if you were following me on Twitter, I actually posted an idea straight, like right after the SEC news, basically saying this is literally all the liquidity and here as well. And those have been swept. So I just put an entry over here. And guess what? That entry actually came up to be perfect. That's what happened over, the last couple of weeks. Now it's time to look ahead and figure out what is going to happen next. So essentially, with all the sell-side liquidity taken out here, this is sell-side liquidity. So what I want you to do is just imagine price action as a fish. In fact, this kind of looks like a fish right now. The thing that determines whether or not it goes up or down is I want you to imagine the markets as an ocean. So if there is food below the ocean, this fish is probably going to go eat the food that is on the ocean floor. But if the food, or the majority of the food, is towards the ocean surface, then the fish is probably going to eat the food on the ocean surface. So at the moment, I just want to zoom out on Bitcoin and show you how this analogy plays into, what price action is currently doing. So over here, you had food, right? Over there as well. After you finish that, guess where you go, right? To the top. Same thing here. You had a lot of liquidity here and you had a lot of liquidity here. After you take it out, where do you go? You go up top. So now you might be thinking, hey, the food here is already eaten, so it should be coming down now, right? No, not necessarily, because in the last couple of videos, we already identified possible areas for Bitcoin to go to before any kind of significant retracement. And you can see right here, 31,760. I wouldn't really even call that a key level because honestly, it's going to go higher. But let's just say, at least for now, there are still higher targets towards the upside. And there is just no indication in terms of market structure that Bitcoin is about to come down. Like, trust me, you do not need to catch the top in order to make money. In fact, it is almost always a bad idea for you to just go short when something, is pumping straight up, because every time before there is a major kind of just dump, you always 100% of the time you get an opportunity. For example, once Bitcoin hit the top here, guess how long it took, right? It took a whole week to show you like a break of market structure towards the downside. And even after it came down, it retraced back into, guess what? A bearish order block. Now, if none of these concepts seem to make sense to you at the moment, I'm about to release a free course that is going to teach you a lot of what you need to know about the way I trade. And the best part is, it's going to be absolutely free. And I know what you might be thinking. Most free courses suck absolute horse crap. This is not going to be one of them. I promise it's going to change the way you trade. If you're interested in the free group, sign up to the waitlist using the link in the description box below. Just to maintain quality, we will be limiting the quantity. So sign up to the waitlist early if you want to secure a spot. There's no rush. If Bitcoin at the moment, what we want to look for is like confirmed candle body closes towards the downside on the daily chart. And currently we're not getting that at all. And also just the fact that the food below has already been eaten, it gives me reason to believe that the trend is going to continue. Unless there is some kind of black swan event, then, things could change. Otherwise, there is only one other thing that you might need to watch out for, is the fact that I want you to visualize Bitcoin at the moment trading within this range, where most of the price action has been occurring between these two levels. So the fact that the range high has been taken out gives a somewhat reasonable chance where it, could come back to the downside. But again, just from our understanding of liquidity, as well as the targets that are above, especially, if we take a look at the Bitcoin CME futures gap, which is right around, 36K, 35, 36K, then yeah, at the moment, the signs are pointing towards more upside rather than downside. So if you were following me on my Twitter, I made a post last week on why you don't want to get into altcoins just because, Bitcoin's pumped. The TLDR of that is basically you want to look at BTC Dominance before you get into any altcoins. And that applies to ETH as well. I have been mentioning this for a period of about 5 to 6 weeks now at this point. So it feels like old news, but Bitcoin has been the leading coin, which means if you had the option to trade either Bitcoin or Ethereum, Bitcoin's going to almost always be the better choice just because it is a lot more clear in terms of the price action and it is not as choppy. But the question becomes, is it now time to trade Ethereum? And the answer to that will come when we look at Bitcoin dominance. So at the moment, in terms of Bitcoin dominance, I still think it has room to move. But again, you can't exactly treat Bitcoin dominance as, just a regular chart. But if we were to look at it from a regular charts perspective, then it is still trading within a discount and it still has room to move. Now, is it actually going to move there? Well, let's take a look. Where price is at the moment, there is no sort of fair value gap to indicate that it's just going to start tanking from here. So honestly, based on the way that I'm looking at this, there is room to go higher. And in fact, one of the only reasons why Ethereum is moving up right now compared to Bitcoin is the fact that Bitcoin dominance is taking a hit, right? If we take a look at the ETH BTC chart, you can see that, things are starting to change in favor of Ethereum. And that is generally a good sign because when Ethereum moves, all the altcoins start moving. In fact, the first coins that you want to look to start moving as a sort of like an early sign that the markets are shifting in favor of the altcoins are the large caps. And that ties into what we're about to talk about with Litecoin soon, because Litecoin is absolutely exploding. We're going to touch on that in just a little bit. But for now, if BTC is looking like just really amazing, it might even be time to switch away from Bitcoin and start trading Ethereum because you just took out range lows and now the range highs are very clear with room for a minimum of like a 10% move of ETH compared to Bitcoin. But then the moment you zoom out, then you get a completely different picture because now you sort of have range highs and range lows where price is mostly, trading between these two areas. So if Ethereum starts printing higher highs and higher lows here, then this would mean that this entire downtrend for Ethereum against Bitcoin, right? This entire downtrend here is just a retracement into the 705 or the 618, which is essentially the golden pocket. And then you're going to continue to make new highs. That is at the moment what it seems like it's going to do. The market sentiment as well as just macroeconomic, situation seems to line up with that. So that is the idea that I'm going to roll with at the moment. Now, the only way that this idea gets invalidated is if you start making, essentially this low here for Ethereum at 0.06076. If that gets broken, then, obviously this idea is going to be invalidated. But otherwise, ETH against BTC looking pretty bullish, going to the upside with potential moves for even more. And I'm going to mark out the other one here at 77. So that leaves two possible targets, which is 10% and 21%. So how do we translate this back into the Ethereum chart? It essentially just go long. Like it's as simple as that. Ethereum has already broken market structure towards the upside. So just to put it into perspective, this was in fact, you could even say this was the change of character. And then you have the break of structure. Like you could either use that or that. Or that. In this case, I'm just going to use this. Essentially, Ethereum market structure on the daily chart, which is quite a high time frame, has already broken to the upside. So essentially, and right now, just any retraces back into bullish order blocks, you have fair value gaps. For example, here you have a fair value gap. Like any of these retraces is just going to provide you with a potential entry. And so I can't necessarily give you an entry other than, this one right here. That is a confirmed bullish order block. If you ask me though, that is actually a pretty decent entry because again, when we look at liquidity concepts, right, we always just want to identify where the food is. So remember early on, I talked about how this is a fair value gap here that has already been filled. So the food on the downside is already sort of eaten. And right now we should assume that this low will not be tested again if our bias is, bullish. And that's why this would sort of be the invalidation. For example, if you take that bullish order block trade over there, your stop loss would literally just be close to the end of the wick. because if price does come back here, then your trade is invalidated and you just simply get out with a small loss. That is where risk management comes into play. As for the target for ETH, now if we were to extrapolate what we had in terms of ETH BTC, if we were to extrapolate that, then, it's about a 10 to 20% gain. So, roughly 2460 as a short-term target. But honestly speaking, 3000 is sort of like a medium-term target. I don't expect this to be hit for at least not a couple of months, but just as short-term targets, these would be a couple. So that's 2200 and 2450. So that lines up, roughly 25% and about 15% for ETH across the board. Now, if you know anything about the crypto markets, you know that they can absolutely explode exponentially. And that is exactly what Litecoin is doing at the moment, where in the last probably even just a couple, let's count a couple of weeks, it has went up by 57%. So don't think that this is not something that can happen to Ethereum. It absolutely can. With a 50% pump, it would put it at the ultimate target, which is at 2935. If we were to look at the ETH CME futures, you can see that there is a very significant gap over here between 2550 to about 2630. So that remains the ultimate target for ETH at the moment. I wouldn't necessarily want to look further than that, but this is almost definitely, if we're targeting 35k on Bitcoin, this is almost a certainty for Ethereum. So let's get back to Litecoin. Now, what is going on Litecoin, and what if should you even get in? And if you should get in, then where? So firstly, let's identify the target, right? First thing we always do is we want to identify if there is still juice left in this move. And to do that, you simply look at liquidity concepts, right? Again, it goes back to that theory. Okay, let's take a look at the food. In this move here, you took out all of the food that is below these lows, right? Relatively equal lows. You have a fair value gap over there, which if I extrapolate it further, then you will see more clearly. So check out how the daily candle bodies just perfectly filled in that fair value gap over there. In fact, that is not even visible on the daily chart. I think I might have marked that out on either the 4 hourly or the 1 hourly, but check out how that is the bottom. And this also just goes to show how easily the wicks are able to manipulate it, because you got to remember this. If you're trading alongside smart money concepts, you always want to focus on the candle bodies. That is where most of the institutional volume is concentrated at, and the wicks are super easy to manipulate as long as you have a couple 10 mil, super easy. Heck, you don't probably even need a couple 10 mil for a coin that isn't in the top 20 or the top 10. But anyways, I digress. So going back to Litecoin, just because something is high, it does not mean that you should just start shorting it, okay? There is a reason why Litecoin is pumping, and there is a reason why it's pumping only after it has taken out sell-side liquidity. A common mistake I see too many people make is they see a coin pump, or they see anything pump, and they're like, oh, because it's already pumped 50%, it cannot go higher. Tell that to the people who were in the start of the 2020 bull market, and they're going to tell you it's a completely different story. Okay? Just like how something that is cheap doesn't mean that it won't keep going lower. Something that is high, especially something that has this much momentum, does not mean that it's just going to start coming down. But the reason why we try to figure out where it could end is so that we can ride the wave until it hits the target, or when it hits the target, we can start looking for a short. Now, mind you, I did not say just short this level here. Look for a short, okay? Very different things. Anyways, there are multiple sort of targets that we could look at. Ideally, I would want Litecoin to go back to $170 because that's a pretty strong level over here, or even 174, right? So between 170 to 175, that's going to be the ideal level. Is it going to hit there? Probably not in the short term. So in the short term, what can we look at as potential targets? There are actually 4, because these are just really, really clean highs, in the sense that you just have very clean candle body highs. Again, here you have very clean candle body high. In fact, this liquidity has already been taken, so I'm not even going to consider that. At $150 and at $130, you just got really clean highs, and even you have another one right here at 163. Technically, this has already been taken, so yeah, I'm not going to consider that. So right now you have 2 potential targets for Litecoin, which is at $130 and $150. Basically, I'm pretty much expecting this to be hit. I had a trade going almost 3 months ago where I bought Litecoin at $85, and I sort of just forgot about it until now. Now that I look back at this, and I just opened up Binance and I'm like, oh, that position's still going. So if that trade plays out, it's actually going to be 135 to 1 R trade. And I kid you not, I will show you guys the results once, we hit the target. But at the moment, it is looking like it's going to hit the target. So in about, a period of 4 months, it's 135 R. That's living proof, basically, of when I talk a lot about how the less trades you take, but the better trades. I mean, obviously, this one is sort of one of those lucky accidents where I forgot about it. This would have been the bottom, by the way. If I wasn't targeting so far up, I actually caught the exact bottom. And like, if I just took profit like anywhere above these highs, then that still would have ended up being a good trade. But obviously my trading strategy revolves around getting really, really big wins. I might not win a lot, but whatever win I get sort of, holds me true the next couple months, even 3 months. I digress. So yeah, this is just living proof that you really don't need a lot of trades to make money trading. In fact, sometimes the less trades you take, the more money you tend to make, and a lot less headache that you go through while trading. So anyways, coming back to Litecoin, given that this at the moment is the target and I don't see any sort of market structure that indicates that this is about to go down, I'm still going to say similar concept to Bitcoin about how I predicted the bottom during the SEC, crash. 102.8 is going to be the level to buy on Litecoin. Now, I know it feels really weird buying something at this high of a price after it has already pumped, let's see, about 56, 57%, or even at this point, right? It's pumped 40% from the lows. I know it feels weird buying it at that price, but look at how Bitcoin went. Like, just gotta keep your eyes on the target. That is the higher time frame target. And until it gets hit, you sort of just got a momentum trade. So let's see if we see a similar story, if we jump onto the lower time frame. 4 hourly is not showing us much, but the 1 hourly definitely is. Check it out. Over there, you have fair value gap. And so it's, it's literally as simple as, start of the fair value gap and maybe at the end of the fair value gap. So that's about an entry of about 102.85, stop at about 97.2, and then target at 131. That's going to give you about a risk to reward of 5 to 1. Obviously, it's not a 135 to 1 trade, but it's still pretty good. So that is the situation on Litecoin. So given that this video is going quite a bit longer than expected, we're just going to look at maybe MATIC and one more coin at most, and then we're going to call it a day, because I'm sure you guys have already gotten quite a bit of knowledge from this video. So pulling up the MATIC chart, this was recommended by someone from Twitter. Now, this chart is interesting because I run a mastermind where I basically show you how to get funded within a period of 3 to 4 months as a complete beginner. And we do a lot of just small group coaching, and you're going to spend a lot of time with me. And I'm basically just going to coach you through the entire process of going from zero to getting funded. It basically feels like having a coach watch over your back as you're practicing something new. For those of you who have learned any skills whilst having a mentor, then you know exactly how much more quickly you progress when you have something like that. But anyways, I digress. In last week's mastermind call, I was discussing the idea of following the trend. And that's why I had already marked out the MATIC chart like this. And this is a pretty good example actually of why you don't want to just buy because something is low, and instead you want to follow the trend. Let's put this into perspective. So over here, right? Let's assume we have a crystal ball, because in this very moment, we do have a crystal ball. We know exactly what MATIC did into the near future because we have this crystal ball, right? This is sell-side liquidity that gets taken. And so you expect it to bounce. But then a lot of people will look at this market here and they will be like, oh, price has already been taken. Sorry, sell-side liquidity has already been taken and price is pretty cheap, right? Maybe they're a MATIC maxi. They believe in MATIC and they think it's going to go up, right? This is a cheap price to accumulate MATIC, quote unquote. And so they buy. When they fail to realize that on a higher time frame, let's say we go onto the weekly, that this is not done. There is way more liquidity down here that has literally not been tapped for 106 days. So that's about 3, 4, 5 months of liquidity that hasn't been taken at all. In fact, over here was the ultimate target. And this liquidity here has not been taken for, let's see, a whole year. So a lot of people are going to be like, as MATIC keeps going lower and lower, they're going to keep buying. They're going to keep trying to build along because they want to catch the bottom. There is a certain pride involved in catching the bottom. Hopefully this becomes a very important lesson for you of why you shouldn't try to do that. Because first thing you always need to do when you hop onto any market is just identify where the liquidity is. When you identify where the liquidity is, then you can come up with a target. Once you have a target, you can make an educated guess on where the price is possibly going to go, in the future. Once you have that, then you read the market structure. Is the market structure telling you that price is going to form reversals? Is price about to reverse and start going up? If you don't see that, then you don't go long. Basically, follow the trend. I want you to see, just observe here. This is how market structure looked like that, right? Notice how you have, a high and a low. That's a lower high, right? That's step one to bearish market structure. But then you get a higher low, right? So that proves that there may be some kind of reversal happening over here. If you took a long here, that would be great. But then the moment this lower high gets confirmed, you have all the proof you need to know that the markets are going to go lower. And so you don't fight the trend, right? Just keep looking for places to short. Just to put it in perspective, right? If you tried going long at any given point in this chart, you would have been stuck, like, let's see, right? From the bottom to the top, it took 20 days for a 15% move. From the top to the next low, 25 days, right? So pretty similar time to this pump here. But in this time, it dumped twice as hard. All right, another example, 17 days, 15%. This one, 13 days, 46.5% dump. Do you see how powerful it is for you to trade alongside the trend and just keep shorting something? Just because something is low doesn't mean it can't go lower. And imagine if you shorted that, that is like double the gains in less time. And more importantly than that, if you were going long, you would be feeling very, very uncertain because you would be looking at the price doing absolutely nothing for like 20 days and 17 days. And you're going to be there like not being able to sleep because your position's doing nothing and you're worried it's going to get stopped out or stuff like that, right? Mental capital is a very underrated aspect of trading, and hence like why you want to take trades that play out immediately, right? And you can do that when you trade with the trend. But anyways, this is just a really good example of like, just, it ain't worth it, all right? It really just ain't. So yeah, hopefully you learned like a pretty important lesson over there. And now let's actually get into the analysis. So what I'm looking for here, and the reason why I am, suggesting going on a long on MATIC at the moment is because, liquidity has sort of been taken. Now, ultimate liquidity is going to be down here at like 34 cents. I don't know if we're going to go all the way to 34 cents just like that. I'm pretty sure we're going to go for just a slight bit of a rally. So Again, this is not going to be the best trade out of the ones that I've recommended you, but if you were itching for a trade, given that, Bitcoin dominance is sort of looking like it's going to come down, given that Ethereum looks like it's about to pop, given that Bitcoin sort of looks like it wants to pop, hey, maybe MATIC's going to pop too, right? Because Litecoin popped and MATIC is also a large cap coin. So in this case, I am going to suggest a long, or rather this is my idea, not financial advice. This is just what I personally would do. So in last week's mastermind call, I actually just literally suggested an entry like that. And well, that has not been playing out. It actually went below our entry and now it's back an entry. So here's a better way to do things. So on the daily chart right now, price has formed a higher low. Right? Not only have you formed a high low, but you've also formed a high high, right? This is the high high. This was the high before. Now, technically, this is still micro market structure, but it's a start because now you have a high low. And right now, it seems like you're about to form a high high. So if that high high gets confirmed, basically where if price trades above like 0.71 with a confirmed daily candle body close above this level, you simply look for a retrace, ideally back into this level here at 0.6484 to 0.6439. If you do come back into this block here, just like how I predicted the bottom on Bitcoin, it is probably going to be the bottom for MATIC before it absolutely takes the heck off to about 94 cents and a medium, like this is just like the immediate target, right? Something that can get hit in the next like 3 to 4 weeks. But if you're talking about like a medium term target, then we're going to be looking at 1.185. Is this likely? I don't know. Only time will tell. Again, as traders, we are in the business of reacting to what the market gives us rather than trying to make predictions. Again, this is an educated guess. I wouldn't call this a prediction. Like, I'll literally just take what the markets give me. Again, it ties back to that Litecoin example where, on paper, I had a 135 to 1 hour trade, but then, I could have just as easily been stopped out if I had a stop loss. I actually just forgot about that position and just didn't look at Litecoin for the next 4 months. Like, this is actually a really good target to go for. Pretty low risk. If it hits 94 cents, I would take a lot of profit and just hunt for the next position. Like, if it continues going up, then I'm just going to keep trading up. Again, you don't need to catch the bottom or the top as proven here. You have so much. This is 35. That's a 30% dump. There's a 45% dump. And over here, that is also a 37% dump, right? You have a lot of room to make gains without needing to catch the top. It's so much better for you to get into an already existing, already proven trend rather than try to predict the top or predict the bottom. So at the moment, this is what I have for MATIC. And yeah, I think that's about all the time that I have for today. If you learned quite a few things in this video, then I'm just letting you know that you would learn way more if you joined the free group. Again, it is not going to be one of those very basic courses where I teach you just the absolute basics of things. I'm actually going to explain the reasons and how you can do what I do for yourself. If that sounds like interest to you, sign up for the waitlist. And until then, I will see you guys in the next market update video. And remember to follow me on Twitter because that's where I'm posting updates like this you don't want to miss out on. Bye-bye.